Scott Joseph here. We are at NADA, booth 3266, J&L Marketing. Special guest, Kerri from TrueCar. And we're going to talk a little bit about the State of the Union because you guys have got a lot of new things going on. You were at Ted Ing's Fixed Ops Roundtable, and you killed it there.
Thank
so,
you.
Give us a little bit about what you talked about there real quick.
Yeah, so at TrueCar, what's important to us when it comes to educating and sharing insights with our dealers is really getting insights directly from the consumer. And so we do a ton of research on the consumer.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that if you knew the consumer 10 years ago, or even if you knew the consumer today, I can guarantee that tomorrow the consumer is going to be different.
Yeah.
And they're constantly evolving, and new generations like millennials are coming out, and new segments like women are becoming more and more prominent in the car buying process. And so it's important for us to constantly have a pulse on what's happening with the consumer. But we also study dealers, and we do a lot of mystery shops and studies of our highest closing dealers, because at TrueCar, we know when a lead actually results in a sale.
Yeah.
And so what's important to us is to understand the best of the best. How are they closing more sales? So at Fixed Ops, I shared some of those insights.
Yeah, can you share a couple?
Absolutely. Yeah. We recently published an infographic called Hold the Phone, the new rules of engagement.
Where can people find that?
They can find that at truecar.com/dealer.
Okay.
And we have a blog on there, and you'll see it listed there.
Beautiful.
You can download an infographic and an article.
Okay.
And really, why we did that is that when you look at traditional sales training for dealers, or if you were to ask a dealer, what is the best way to contact a consumer? They're going to say, get them on the phone, right?
Yeah.
That's what every sales trainer has ever told them.
Yeah.
Get them on the phone. And that's not wrong. If you can engage with a consumer on the phone.
If they'll pick up.
If they'll pick up. But if you can't get them on the phone, it is going to be probably the best way to close that consumer. But here's the problem. Our relationship with our phones has changed as consumers. And at Fixed Ops, I illustrated that to an audience of dealers. I asked them, I said, everyone pick up your phone. How many missed calls do you have? And I think there were people that had hundreds of missed calls.
Yeah.
How many unlistened voicemails do you have?
Oh.
And there was a guy that had like 75 unlistened voicemails.
I have to tell you, I hate when people leave me a voicemail. I'm like, I think I know where you're going,
yes.
but I'm like, I can't, because now I got to listen to it, and
yes.
I'm like,
why?
Yeah.
And so that if you look at the infographic, one of the things we found is that 87% of consumers will not answer a call from a number they don't recognize.
Correct. Yeah.
And here's one reason why. There's two actually. One, millennials and younger generations just don't even like to talk at all. I mean, like my daughter is 13 years old and will text me when she needs something, and we're both in the house.
What also makes it a challenge, if they don't like to talk, trying to get them to pick up the phone and call customers anyways.
Well, that's true. That's a really good point I never thought about.
Yeah.
On the other end, on the sales end of the spectrum. Well, and the other thing is that robocalls have ruined our lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you look, robocalls have increased by 4 times what they were even a few years ago.
Yeah.
45% of all calls, they say, are going to be robocalls in the next year or so. So what happens is we've been conditioned to, if we don't recognize that number, we're not going to waste our time. And even a voicemail, I don't listen to my voicemail anymore. There's companies doing away altogether with voicemail at a corporate level. And at Fixed Ops, someone called me a bad daughter when I told this story, and I showed my phone of 2 voicemail messages from John Reese, who is my father, who were unlistened. I didn't listen to them. And someone said, oh, you're a bad daughter. I said, no, I am a normal person, because there was no reason to listen to my dad's voicemail. Because you know what I just did when I saw he called? What did I do?
Just call back.
I just called him back.
Yeah.
I didn't need to listen to it. And even if I do listen to it, guess what I do? I don't listen to it. I read it, because my phone translates it into text.
That's what I do.
Right?
Is this something I want to even listen
to? Just scan.
Yeah.
You go, oh, da-da-da. And if there's something that interests you, so think now, so we've set that stage of consumers changing, and now think about that from a dealer point of view, and the fact that they've been trained that get them on the phone, get them on the phone, get them on the phone, and the reality is, it's not going to be that easy anymore.
Right.
So we have to think about using other tools, other forms of communication, to really earn our way into a phone call. And so what was shocking to me is our mystery shops. We do mystery shops of dealers every day. In fact, we have 15,000 mystery shops of dealers. And we looked at when we submit a lead through a mystery shop to a dealer, how do they respond? 9 out of 10 times there's a phone call. They will absolutely call.
Yeah.
Only half the time when we mystery shop a dealer do we receive a text back. And when we receive a text back, it's usually just one.
Yeah.
And the reality is that consumers text all the time, yet from a
It's
dealer
so
point of
easy.
view, we're not really embracing that. And I even learned, I don't talk to fixed ops audiences as often, but even on the service side, it's less frequent that dealers are using text and video and other forms of communication.
That's right.
A stat that I shared with fixed ops yesterday from a company called Inside Sales, they track real call centers and results. And they found that you're 4 times more likely to get in contact with a customer when you use at least 3 forms of communication. So not just calling, but you might text them.
What are you recommending? Which 3 forms would you recommend to dealers?
Well, I think it will vary based on the consumer, but I would recommend a text.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to talk about legal.
It's the easiest thing
Yeah.
when you're a consumer and you're just like, oh, good text. Like, read it,
Nice
respond back.
And by the way, we'll talk about the legal ramifications of that, but assuming you have opt-in and you have the legal approval to text, I would send a text. You could follow up with a call or an email as well.
Yeah.
I think it's not that any one of those forms is bad, but relying on just one is.
I like to email. Well, clearly we email for marketing purposes, driving traffic and leads, but
Follow up.
I love the follow-up aspect of email and just, hey, I just was on the phone with you, I'm summarizing this, or here's what we agreed to when you were in, just,
Yeah, that's it. And so I think, I think a text gets your attention.
Yes.
And you could, and maybe the phone and email can be interchangeable, but I think you could call and you could follow up with an email, or you send an email and I follow up with a call. But I think the whole point is that you're using different forms of communication, and that's going to be important because some of those resonate differently with different consumers. My dad still is very an email type of person. Me, I have 6,000 unread emails right now, if I was to be honest. So
that's what I have.
probably not the best way to reach
Let's
me.
have a contest.
Let's have a contest right now, because I got beat yesterday.
I think you're going to beat you.
Oh, wow. I was lying. I was sugarcoating. Okay, where are you?
Well, hold on. I've only got 378, but the phone doesn't give it me. If you look at my desktop, I am easily over 7,000.
I am judging you for being so efficient
No.
with your emails. Okay.
My phone won't go back all the way to all of them.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Okay, okay. So she's off. Lauren's off stage. She said that gives her anxiety. I know, but actually, I judge people who have no unread. I said, "What are you? You must be so diligent.
No.
Like, what is going on here?
No.
Are you not human?"
People in my office know, do not email Scott, because you're not going to get any response.
No, and it's true, and I think that's why we have to, as the industry and as out of retail, kind of adjust to this, because I've also seen voicemail talk tracks that dealers are given.
You know what else I like about text? I'll stop whatever I'm doing. I mean, how many times are we all in a meeting?
Yes.
We may not pay attention to a social notification or an email or obviously a call, but if we're in a meeting, I'll look at whatever the text was, you know?
Yeah, so there's 2 things that benefit text. One, the open rate is like 98%, where it's only 20%, I think, for emails and even less in terms of answering a phone call. So one, you're going to get them to actually open it. But the engagement level, you're absolutely right, that we will text when we shouldn't text, really, right? There's a whole text and driving campaign, right? Because people text when they drive. People text in the bathroom. And they certainly text at work.
We're willing to do it at all times.
At all times. And I've reviewed thousands of consumer conversations when it comes to consumers and dealers texting. I used to work at a company that had a text platform. And what you would find is consumers, when a dealer would text them, would say, "I can't talk right now," but yet continue a conversation. Now, if you called, you would have never even got that. But they would continue the conversation, asking questions about a car or wondering where the dealership was. And so, as an industry, we have to move in that direction because.
And you're doing this study because at TrueCar, you want to teach all dealers what your most successful clients are doing.
Absolutely, because the reality is that we don't have a texting platform. There's no business for me to sell here.
Right.
But we want to see our dealers maximize their success on the program.
Correct.
And us giving you an opportunity to connect with our consumers is the first part, but it's up to the dealer to engage with them if they're actually going to close the sale.
That's exactly right.
It's important for us to share some of these best practices, and as a reality, we have to just move forward as an industry. Now, I will tell you, the number one reason I hear from dealers on why they don't text is the legal ramifications. And my thing,
right.
you know, those are really, we should.
So how do you guys? What advice do you give there?
Yeah, and what I would say is, you know, first of all, no decision that we make is black and white. And I think what we tend to do is we might hear a horror story. Maybe there was a dealer group that was sued.
Yes.
And you go, oh my God,
that
they
was
had
about
to
5
pay.
years ago.
You heard about that, right? And so you hear that and you go, I'm no longer texting.
Yeah.
Right? And that would be the equivalent of me saying, I'm no longer driving my car because I heard someone got in a car accident yesterday, right?
Yeah.
You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because you hear of a story. The reality is that most of the lawsuits that we hear about, whether it be in auto or outside of auto, are mass marketing, right? They sent a mass marketing, but on a one-on-one basis, you're safer. You're safer. Now, you still got to get permission.
Your exposure is one person. Correct.
One person.
That's right.
And you're not marketing them. Maybe they've submitted a lead on TrueCar, for example.
Correct.
When they submit a lead on TrueCar, we actually get them to opt in to allow for call, texting from the
So
dealer.
in that sense, there is a direct benefit for what you guys do. Because dealers don't all have the right process to get the opt-in.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I would recommend even further than that, even though we collect that permission, I would always still recommend a dealer get some level of permission. Are you okay with me
should try, but they don't all have
texting?
the great process to do it.
They don't have the process, and there are tools out there built into CRMs.
That's right.
On the service side in the DMS, or just kind of standalone tools that allow them that will get that opt-in. And the other thing is allow the opt-out, which is the second part, right? So you got to allow that consumer to say stop, remove them from your database. But I think the key thing is just to remember we got to get permission, we got to allow them to opt out, and to know that this is a one-on-one communication, and we're not doing it from a marketing point of view. We're doing it to answer an inquiry when it comes to a lead. And I think that's important. On the service side, you know, building into your process so that when we're doing paperwork with them, they come in for service, we have, maybe it's in the paperwork where we have some opt-in that allows for text communication.
So you guys are obviously a huge company, do a lot of research. What are you seeing out there, or what are you even hearing at the show, all right, in terms of this is what dealers are kind of concerned with right now, this is what they're really excited about?
It's interesting you say that because we did a study last year and we asked dealers about their pain points and profitability.
A lot of pressure on the margins.
A lot of pressure on the margins. You know, getting more opportunities when it came to leads or selling more cars, like reaching more ready-to-buy customers was a big one as well. What was concerning in the survey we did was that efficiency wasn't mentioned. Because I think as an industry, we need to be talking more about efficiency in the process.
If there's no margin left, you have to.
Yes. How do we sell?
It's the only way you're going to be more profitable.
How do we cut our costs in terms of how we sell cars?
Right.
And when we had that on the survey.
Well, and you can take efficiency to a lot of different directions.
A lot of different directions.
You can cut costs, but how do we do things for consumers faster? How do we, you know?
It's on both ends of the spectrum.
Correct.
I think both dealers and consumers want convenience and efficiency.
Correct.
They want convenience from a consumer standpoint. I want to save as much time as possible.
That's
I
right.
want my time efficiently used. But from a dealer standpoint, you don't want to waste time selling cars to a customer. You don't want to have to call this many leads just to get one sale. And so it goes down that. And so I think when it comes to efficiency, you know, our process, the online to offline, you know, what I still see as an industry is we still have those disconnects.
Yeah.
You know, we all have a dealership website. We have, you know, a profile out there for the consumer to find us online. But oftentimes what happens online and how it translates to when I speak to someone or when I'm in the showroom, there's a breakdown. And so now I'm starting over as a consumer. I've given you some information about me online. I walk in. Now you're starting me through the road to the sale. And I'm not on step one of the road to the sale.
Right.
I'm on step 4 or 5, maybe even 6, right? I'm further along. And so I always say, we need we need to focus on the details of picking the deal up where the deal left off, because today's consumer may be further along in that road to sale than we learned in our training back in the day.
Let me ask you, do you guys track the majority of your leads to the sense that, like, put a percentage in? All right, the percentage of our leads are this in the this step in the journey, or at what stages?
I see what
you
you're
guys
saying.
do that?
Yes. I think as a company, we tend to attract more low funnel shoppers, and I'm not saying that to brag or sell.
Well, because I would assume, I would agree with that, because I have no data to support this, but I would assume by the time they go to you, it's like, all right, I'm kind of nailed down to this car, now I just need to know what the heck was the best price.
Yeah, it's the nature of our site, at least in its current state, that we don't have a lot of research tools. We're actually, we recently rebranded, and we're adding more research tools, meaning like articles and videos and car comparisons.
Yeah.
And so because we haven't had the upper funnel content like other research sites, as a consumer, you come to us and you probably know you've nailed down at least a couple models.
Yeah.
And so because of that, what we tend to find is that if you are a researcher, you're going to go through TrueCar, you're going to get some information, but you're probably not going to end up being a lead. Actually, only about 7% of our 8 million consumers that visit our site ultimately make it into a lead. Many of them drop out because by design, our lead process is pretty tedious. You have to configure a car, give us a lot of information. It's about 12 to 15 steps. And so by the time you make it through, you're probably going to be a serious shopper. About 65% of our leads close within a week of submitting a lead, which is pretty fast.
So that's definitely low funnel.
It's definitely low funnel. But I think the key we like to emphasize is it's low funnel, but it's not easy. And I think there could be a perception that you kind of stamp every customer and get them to give them your email and now they're a lead. And it's like, no, we're only paid from dealers in most states if that lead closes. We're the only third-party site that has that type of billing model. And the reason why that's important is we're accountable to the dealer. In other words, it's easy to generate a lead.
Yes.
I can generate a lead right now as people are walking past here. Give away a
bring some into our
prize,
booth.
have a raffle for a car, whatever. Like, I can generate a lead.
Yeah.
And many third parties generate leads very well.
Yeah.
But if you know that you're only going to get paid as a company if that lead closes, that's a different ballgame. And the way that you market, the way that you attract consumers is you're going to think about, is this a consumer that is really ready to buy? And so when you look at our paid search strategy, for example, the way we buy keywords, because we have transaction data from all of our dealers, we're looking at keywords that actually resulted back to a sale.
Right.
We're looking at buying those keywords, not keywords that are just going to get a visit.
You don't want to waste
the site.
You don't want to waste money?
We don't want to waste money, which is another topic we need to talk about in auto retail, digital marketing waste. But we're really into like all of our steps. If you look at TrueCar.com, most people don't realize that we're TrueCar, but we actually power 500 affinity sites. USAA, Sam's Club, American Express. These are all member organizations in which you have to be a member. You have to have a login and password to get to their auto buying programs that we power. And for us, those give us high quality customers that ultimately result in sales to benefit the dealer, but obviously to benefit us as well from a revenue standpoint.
So this has been awesome. I told you she would not disappoint. So listen, I had to cut out early from Ted's thing yesterday to do our meeting here. I had to do the meeting, so I had to leave. But I've talked to no less than 10 people that said you just killed it yesterday.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
So I'm sure
that.
Ted's inviting you back.
He's inviting me back, and I didn't realize they gave an award for the best practice, and I won. I'm not really, my ego's not driven by awards, so I was busy talking in the back. I didn't even know my name was called, but I did win an award.
That is awesome.
But I want to thank you for having me, and I do want to just kind of do a plug and let you know that TrueCar recently rebranded, and we got to get the word out because we were known for a blue logo. And now we have this very colorful, I wish I had, oh, there I am, here I am. I forgot, my shirt has TrueCar. So you can see that we have a very colorful, there we go, very colorful logo. And we did this in part because if we look around this floor, not this booth is red and different.
A lot of blue.
A lot of blue. We're a male-dominated industry, and men like blue. But here's the thing: our consumers are not just men.
That's right.
So we just felt that we had to be very intentional at attracting both men and women.
Yeah.
And this logo.
And let's talk a little bit about that, right?
resonated.
Because
Yes.
Katie did a great job yesterday talking as well, and we've talked to her here as well. And a lot of the focus was how to sell to women with her. And so really your shift here puts that kind of in the front, right?
It really is, and it's something that we're going to evangelize in the industry, because while we made this step to do it for TrueCar, I think it's something that auto retail or automotive in general needs to hear.
Yeah.
That we felt like we were missing the mark on women and millennials. And we're a technology, we're an auto company, we're also a technology company, and that's just not acceptable.
Yeah.
And so we felt like we had to be intentional. And so it's not just a logo. A logo's a part of it. It's a symbolic part of it. And just to back up, our consumer base at the time was 65% men and 35% women. So we were under-indexing on women. So this change had to happen. So the logo's a part of it, but we also launched a new advertising campaign.
Okay.
And if you look at the advertising, it's fun, it's friendly, it's vibrant, and it features women in lifestyles. Ella, who just got her first job, the woman millennial.
Right.
Another woman who's a mother who just had babies. And then of course we have men in the commercials too. So this isn't just about women or millennials.
How long has the campaign's been running?
So we
And the
just
rebrand?
launched this rebrand on January 30th.
So you don't have enough data yet, clearly.
We tested it
Oh,
beforehand,
wow.
so we wouldn't have done this without a test. And so TrueCar's been around for 15 years.
Yeah.
This is our first ever change. We were a blue logo, now we're colorful. So what we found is that the campaign did well.
I love all the research.
Oh yeah, you gotta
we
do the
live on
research.
that, so I love
We're
that.
a public company too,
Yes.
so you just can't make any decisions without like testing it first. But there was a couple things. We wanted to make sure that our male base of consumers was not turned off by our logo or our campaigns.
Correct.
And so
Can't
what we
lose your
found,
core.
we can't lose our the core base. What we found is that they were slightly more satisfied, but like at least neutral, and that was our goal. But they were more satisfied. The women were even more satisfied with not only the logo, but the campaign we're doing as well.
Yeah, and unless you're
And millennials.
going from Coke to New Coke, where it's a drastic change and you've got this great, I think people also want to see progress. So if you had, the men are probably like, oh, this is going to, and it probably made a lot of the men think they're doing something different, they're improving it.
Yeah, and if you look at our space, we see a lot of blue in this convention floor. Now, when you look at technology, you don't see a lot of blue.
Yeah.
Google is rainbow.
Yeah.
Rainbow colors, right?
Yeah.
Let me go through a couple. Airbnb, I think, is a peach or so, right?
Yep.
Lyft is hot pink.
Yeah.
So all these technology companies that, like even Amazon is what, yellow? So all these technology companies that we love and adore, we have no problem, men and women, but they catch our eyes.
Right.
And so that was what was key for us. We don't want to be in a sea of sameness as an industry.
Yeah.
We want to pop. And so we made those changes, and we found that women loved it, millennials loved it. We also found that regionally, there's kind of the guess that maybe it was just San Francisco and New York City that liked it.
Yeah.
And hey, we were happy to see Midwesterners like it too. And so we extensively tested it. Even dealers, that was one of our concerns. Like with dealers, a male-dominated industry. And what we found is they're pretty pragmatic. And for the most part, they're like, you can turn your logo upside down. If you're driving sales to my dealership, I don't really care, right? It's all about what I'm getting from you. And if you're attracting more consumers,
correct. Yeah.
More power to you. So we're happy with that. We've made a couple other changes too to our consumer experience to give consumers a little bit more control in the lead process. In the past, we sent the consumer automatically to 3 dealers. They didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Now, you're automatically sent to just 1 dealer, and then a consumer can choose and select 2 more.
Proves the experience completely.
Yes.
Give more control, give.
Yes.
Yeah.
And from a dealer standpoint, what that might mean is you might see a slight decline in leads because you used to automatically be sent to the consumer, but your close rate goes up because the consumer chose you. If they added you on as additional dealers, they added you because they chose you. They saw some value in you.
That's right.
So we're finding close rates up. We're finding that about 1/3 of our consumers will only interact with 1 dealer.
Where can obviously we know where to find you online.
Yes.
If they're here and someone's watching this live and saying, where's their booth? Where is it?
Yes, so we are in the back over there. Not far from your guys' really nice location here at 4715C. And you can also go on truecar.com/dealer and learn about the rebrand, the consumer experience changes, and also read our blog with the Hold the Phone content.
Well, you do an outstanding job explaining and articulating all this, and which is why you won yesterday and got all the recognition you deserve. So outstanding job.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
This was great.
Yeah.
Thank you.